Imagine you're a Roman commander on the Danube frontier in 440 AD. A scout reports Huns raiding a village. You send a legion to intercept. But by the time your soldiers march 20 miles, the Huns have ridden 100, burned more settlements, and vanished. They weren't just fast, they were untouchable. This wasn't a battle, it was a vanishing act. The Romans, built for grinding, set-piece battles, suddenly faced an enemy that refused to play by their rules. The Huns didn't line up or hold ground, they struck and disappeared, turning Roman strengths into weaknesses. Fighting them was like trying to punch water, exhausting and futile. Their speed created a psychological weapon, the constant fear that nowhere was safe. The Huns became the boogeymen of the 5th century, their name synonymous with destruction. Their secret? A perfect storm of equestrian skill, military innovation, and a culture built for mobility. They bred tough horses, mastered mounted archery, and lived in the saddle. Before the Huns, cavalry was support. The Huns made it the main event. They were the tanks, fighter jets, and artillery of their day, all in one. The Romans couldn't catch them, couldn't predict them, and couldn't stop them. The Huns didn't just defeat armies, they broke civilizations. Their mobility rewrote the rules of ancient warfare. The empire's steamroller met an enemy it couldn't crush. The Huns were a paradigm shift, not just a new enemy, they changed the game forever. The Huns began as scattered nomadic clans, but they excelled at aggressive networking. Conquered tribes like the Alans and Goths were given a choice: join or be destroyed. This policy swelled their ranks, creating a multi-ethnic war machine. The Huns didn't assimilate everyone, they ran a confederation, with each tribe keeping its identity but fighting under Hunnic command. They cherry-picked the best warriors and skills from every group. The system worked through fear and reward. Loot kept the vassals loyal, but it was a shark. It had to keep moving, conquering, and plundering, or it would die. The Huns didn't build cities or bureaucracies. Their empire was their army, their capital wherever the king camped. This made them nearly impossible to defeat. There was no central target. To fight the Huns, you had to fight all of them, everywhere, at once. Their strength was their mobility and their ability to absorb and command diverse peoples. The Huns were a nation on horseback, their territory as wide as their horses could roam. Their confederation was a brutal innovation, unstable, but devastatingly effective. The Romans faced not just Huns but a coalition of the best fighters from across the steppes. The Huns' empire was a moving target, impossible to pin down. Their model was unlike any kingdom Rome had faced. They were a rolling storm, not a fixed state, and that made them nearly unstoppable. The heart of Hunnic power was their horse, a small, tough steppe pony, not pretty, but unstoppable. These ponies could survive on little, endure harsh weather, and travel immense distances. Hunnic warriors kept several mounts, switching to fresh ones to maintain speed. They lived in the saddle, learning to ride as soon as they could walk. Outsiders marveled at their equestrian skill. They could fire arrows at full gallop, swerve, and turn on a dime. This wasn't just transport, it was an extension of themselves. Their tactical flexibility was unmatched. They could appear, attack, and vanish before a counterattack could form. Roman legions, slow and heavily armored, were helpless as Huns circled and peppered them with arrows. The Huns had no supply train to slow them down. Their food was livestock on the hoof. They were self-sufficient, carrying what they needed and foraging as they went. Roman armies needed roads and supply wagons. The Huns needed only open land. They could cross mountains, swamps, and forests, anywhere their horses could go. The Huns were off the grid, unpredictable, and impossible to corner. Their lifestyle was their greatest weapon. The horse made them mobile, the bow made them deadly. Together, they became the most feared force of their age. The Romans had never seen anything like it. The Huns' main weapon was the composite bow, a compact, powerful marvel of wood, horn, and sinew. It could be fired from horseback, punching through armor at range. Hunnic archers could shoot in any direction, even behind them while retreating. Their signature move feign retreat, then turn and unleash a deadly volley on pursuing enemies. Armies fell for it again and again. Hunnic volleys were like a storm cloud. Arrows blotted out the sun. They didn't aim for individuals, they saturated entire formations. Even the best shields couldn't stop every arrow. The goal was to disrupt, wound, and terrify, not just kill. Wounded soldiers and falling comrades shattered morale. The Huns dictated every battle when, where, and how to fight. Infantry-centric armies like Rome's had no answer. The Huns made the traditional battlefield obsolete. They were the ultimate skirmishing cavalry, deadly, elusive, and always in control. The Huns' arrival in Europe was an earthquake, triggering the Great Migration. They crushed the Goths, who fled into Roman territory, setting off a chain reaction. This led to the catastrophic Battle of Adrianople, shattering the myth of Roman invincibility. The Huns kept pushing west, building a vast dominion centered in modern Hungary. From there they could raid in any direction, now Rome's next-door neighbors. The Romans tried appeasement, paying huge tributes for peace. This only encouraged more demands and raids. The Huns became kingmakers, playing Roman courts against each other. Sometimes they fought for Rome, sometimes against it, always for profit. The Romans, once the masters, now scrambled to react, bleeding their treasuries dry. The balance of power had shifted. The Huns dictated terms. Rome was on the defensive, its prestige in tatters. The Huns destabilized the entire political landscape. They were the new power in Europe. Attila was the Huns' ultimate leader, the ruthless CEO of conquest. He inherited a powerful war machine and made it unstoppable. Attila mastered psychological warfare, turning fear into his greatest weapon. He cultivated a terrifying reputation, scourge of God, and used it to his advantage. Under Attila, raids became larger, more organized, and more destructive. He demanded impossible tributes, then used non-payment as a pretext for invasion. Attila unified the Confederation, crushing internal dissent and commanding a single massive army. Goths, Alans, Gepids, and Huns all marched under his orders. His most famous campaign, the invasion of Gaul, sacking cities deep in Roman territory. He was stopped at the Catalonian plains, but the fact he got that far showed his power. Attila changed the game from border raids to wars of domination. He made the Huns more dangerous than ever. Under his rule, fear itself became a weapon of mass destruction. Attila was the face of an empire built on terror. What made the Huns so formidable? The perfect blend of mobility, firepower, and psychological warfare. Their horses let them choose every battle's time and place. Their composite bows inflicted casualties from a safe distance, breaking enemy morale. Their reputation for brutality shattered the will to resist before battles even began. The Huns could neutralize larger armies by staying out of reach and whittling them down. They didn't just want victory, they wanted to break their enemy's spirit. Lightning raids created chaos and helplessness, eroding faith in Rome's protection. Their tactics created a paradox: fight them and lose, or hide and be starved out. There were no good options for their enemies. The Huns had built a system of warfare with no easy answer. For a time they seemed truly unstoppable. They were the nightmare Rome couldn't wake from. The Huns' impact went far beyond conquest. They were a catalyst for massive change. Their push west triggered the migration period, redrawing Europe's map and accelerating Rome's fall. They forced Rome and Byzantium to rethink warfare, investing in cavalry and new tactics. The Huns' legacy, the rise of cavalry armies that would dominate the Middle Ages. Their name became a byword for destruction, haunting Europe for centuries. Yet their empire was fragile, held together by Attila's charisma and constant victory. When Attila died, the Confederation collapsed almost overnight. Subjugated tribes rebelled, and the Huns' European empire vanished as quickly as it appeared. They were a supernova, brilliant, brief, and gone, but their shockwaves shaped the world that followed. The Huns forced a total rethink of power, warfare, and fear. Their legacy was permanent, even if their empire was not. Why were the Huns the ultimate warriors? Not strength or bravery, but a perfect storm of innovation and ruthless leadership. Their mastery of horse and bow gave them unmatched mobility and firepower. They struck like ghosts, appearing, devastating, and vanishing. Their strategy weaponized fear, breaking empires before battles began. Under Attila, they became a unified force of pure conquest. The Huns accelerated Rome's fall and forced a new era of warfare. Their empire was brief, but their impact was eternal. They were the ultimate disruptors of the ancient world.